All right, so as promised, going to kind of go over sewing and how to fix this last part of my glove. So this was one of the outdoor gloves. You can see the fingers split, had it inside out. A couple other fingers I've already sewed together, but I'll kind of step through and show you what this would look like. I'll kind of rotate screen down so you can see. So I've got my thread right here, and I'm just going to cut off. So this is button and carpet, just it's a little bit stronger than normal thread. And so got that, and what I'm going to do is on the end, what you will see is what you're going to want to do is to basically tie a knot. And you're going to want to have, I leave maybe a couple inches left over, and I'll show you why. So you're going to tie a knot so you'll have a little bump on there. Then you're going to tie a second knot, and you may end up having to tie a third knot. What you're trying to do is to get it so that you have basically a big knot on your string. That's kind of be a little tricky. So you can kind of see right there. You can see a little bit right there. I'm going to do one more just to make it a little bit stronger, a little bit bigger. So 3 times, making a knot here. And there's a little bit of, a little tricky to try and get them sitting right on top of each other, but that's kind of what you're aiming for. Close enough. All right, so I now have, you can see there's that bump there. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is, so I now have my needle, and I am going to attempt to thread the needle, which is kind of as a metaphor for doing things tricky and can be a little bit challenging as well. So you're going to thread the needle, and then what you basically want to do after you've threaded the needle is you just kind of fold it in half, and the second, so this is kind of the piece that we're going to be sewing, and then this is kind of our extra piece up here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start sewing. So right here I've kind of rotated this around so you can kind of see this is the part of the finger that I'm trying, or part of the glove that I'm going to try and patch back together. So what I'm going to do, and you just take your needle and going to thread it through. And I'm going to want to put it a little bit beyond where I'm actually where it's torn. You want it to go a little bit beyond that. So this is a little challenging because this is basically leather. So what you'll see, so that loop that I had you put in there, what happens is it will naturally kind of stick there and hold itself in place. The reason why I said to leave this extra string on here is that what you're going to do, or at least, this is what I do, is you pull it tight, and then using that string, you tie a knot with the piece you worked through, and then you go ahead and tie it again. So you're just kind of doing making a couple knots, and then you can kind of pull it tight. So now that that's in place, you have, like I said, we've got our point now that we can start with. Then we can go ahead and start working on. So there are a couple different ways we could go. You could go about stitching this. Kind of the simplest one I'm going to do is basically where I keep going through the same side either. So here you see I'm kind of going basically top to bottom. And I kind of push, and again, because I'm pushing my way through leather, it's a little tricky. But you push it through one side, pull it out the other, and then kind of just trace the loop so that it kind of runs where you want it to. And so I came out this side nearest you. You can see the kind of the old stitches on here. So the other way you could would be to go back this side and up and down, but I'm just looping around. I think for something like this, for a glove, it probably works a little bit better. And so I go back to the opposite side, push it through. And then really it's just going to be a matter of me repeating this several times over. So I'll see if with this video I can find a way to kind of speed some of this up. Hopefully I can kind of do that in YouTube. So what you'll notice is that as you're sewing, you'll just have to kind of feed a little bit more thread through, because you want this kind of this loose end of your string. You don't want it to be longer than this, otherwise your string gets kind of tied up as you're pulling it through. And so one of the things you may notice that I'm doing is when I'm flipping it over, I'm kind of using just the surface of it, or you can use whatever you have underneath to help something to push down on the needle, just because working through leather is a little tricky. But certainly if you have a thimble, there's little metal cup type things, you could use that. All right, so now that I am pretty much at the very end, what I am going to do is a little bit similar to what I did in the beginning. Is I'm going to, as I'm pulling through, I'm going to leave a little bit of a loop and then thread it back through that loop, which what that's doing is you're basically making a knot to tie off on that. And so using that, and then kind of you can twist to make another bite in there. That got away from me, but make one more loop. And then the last piece here, wrap it through. Through there. All right, and got a little bit left over, so I'll trim a little bit of that off. And now, last finger for this glove. we'll kind of work on getting him turned back inside out. All right, then kind of working and getting that last finger out. So now, maybe need to put my finger in a little bit to get it to work. But now, this glove, which was all torn up, has all of its fingers back. Not the best of stitches, but it's functional. It will work. Gives me a little bit, allows me to get a little more life out of this, which is kind of what I was hoping for. So that'll do it. Let me close this off. And I'll see if I can do a little bit editing with it as well.